welcome to our September edition of our Microsoft Teams news show. I'm Rob Scott, and today I'm joined by Tom Arbuthnot from Empowering Cloud, along with our VIP panel of Teams experts. So together we're going to be exploring the latest updates in the Teams world. Welcome everyone. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. It's been nice August off, but Teams have still been moving. Normally August is a little bit quieter because Microsoft tend to ramp down the end of their financial year and the start of the new financial year, so they tend to kind of get targets in order and then all go on holiday. But we have got quite a few new features, particularly in Rooms. Rooms has been ticking along, releasing features and adding roadmap items, so some quite interesting things to talk about this month.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to be back. I missed the last one, but I was playing around with custom emojis in the background, Tom, which I felt that was quite good fun. At least kept me amused across the summer period. But either way, we've actually got quite a lot of updates to get through today, which is great news. Seems that Microsoft is bouncing back with lots of feature updates and whatnot. So without much of ado, how about we get started? First of all, we've got callback for call queues. Tom, I mean, Microsoft's announced a callback option on Microsoft Teams. What's this all about?
Quite a big deal, actually. So this is the ability for when you're waiting in queue as a caller into a call queue, you can press a button and say, call me back, essentially at my place in the queue. So rather than having to wait on hold, the agent will be able to ring you back. So yet again, another contact center-like feature coming to call queues. As far as the announcement goes, it doesn't seem to be tied to the new kind of Queues app, the premium Queues experience, but the documentation hasn't all come through yet. But a really significant feature for lots of people that traditionally would have been in a higher end contact center.
Absolutely. Satish, you've got some comments on this one.
Absolutely, because this is one feature where the call queues, when we say call queues and auto attendance, are like a basic contact center features. Having callback capability was one of the most requested features by the customers as well, because this is the basic essential needs on the callback on the contact center functionalities. It would be interesting to see how adding up this functionality comes up with the dynamic contact center, because they have been updating a lot of features on the dynamic sites as well. So it would be one of the great addition as well.
It is interesting to see that they've added it into the kind of core, I suppose, core Teams functionality rather than the dynamics functionality. I mean, should we expect to see more and more kind of contact center type features being built into Teams?
Yeah, I mean, Dynamics is the official kind of contact center. Like if you want a proper big contact center, it's the Dynamics team with the Dynamics contact center. But equally, like the Teams team have said they're going to continue to fill out the Queues app for those smaller or like internal use cases. So I think we'll see a bit more development on both sides of the fence.
Cool. Well, next up we've got Intelligent Recap. It's coming to ad hoc meetings from October. Is that right?
Yeah, this is another nice piece of value coming through. So we've had Intelligent Recap for a while in scheduled meetings. So you schedule a meeting, Teams will generate a summary of the meeting, actions, points made, etc. But that was only for scheduled. Now it's for ad hoc. So just calling you in a chat or doing a Teams Meet Now, an ad hoc non-scheduled meeting, we can still hit record or transcribe. And at the end of that session, it will be a recap will be generated. So that's a really nice feature because people were missing it. They don't understand the difference between scheduled or ad hoc, and why should they care? Like they've met, they want the summary, and now they'll get the summary, which is nice.
Yeah, Kevin's got some thoughts on this. Kevin, are you a believer of these intelligent recaps, or are you doing this manually with some other AI application?
Well, I think, I'm sure we've talked about before, like with Copilot, you get this as well, right? So there's two ways. So I have Copilot. So I do often compare, like Intelligent Recap gives one summary and then you can ask Copilot to summarize it, and they seem to focus on different things. I think, one of the things is Microsoft continues to add new features in their kind of collective grouping of Teams Premium to try to drive Teams Premium licenses in their FY24 Q4 earnings call, which was July 30th. they did note that there's now 3 million paid Teams premium users. That seems like a big number, but remember that's less than 1% of the 320 million monthly active users. So there is some traction as they keep throwing features in there. It'll be interesting to see kind of if people opt for Copilot, which includes all of these features as well. But I think, Tom, a good point. Why does an end user care whether it's a scheduled or ad hoc meeting? So this is nice that Microsoft's bringing it to kind of all the different types of meetings you might have.
Yeah, I think you're right on Places, on Premium as well. Places is coming into Premium, like Queues is coming into Premium. So they're really stuffing some significant value in there. I think you're right, trying to hit a tipping point this year where they can say there's so much value across the Premium stack. Like if you want all the whiz-bang features, you should just, enterprise license premium rather than kind of doing pockets of users. So it'll be interesting to keep monitoring that 3 million number and see if it ticks up.
And to add to it, the value which Teams Premium gives, I do understand that Copilot has a lot of other capabilities, but when Teams Premium, it has its own distinguished capabilities like Queues app, the places which Tom mentioned. They are adding up more and more functionalities into the Queue app, making it a big mini contact center services as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? Lots, in terms of experience enhancing features, there's another one here that's come through around channel cards. Tom, so talk us through this and how it's kind of changing the kind of channel experience.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked before on the show, like Teams is called Teams, but the actual adoption of Teams and channels is quite challenging for lots of organizations. They often use it mainly for chat, and they will create big chat groups, and then they will do meetings, obviously. But getting people to use Teams and channels is more of a culture change. So there's a bunch of things Microsoft are doing, changing the layout and the behavior of Teams and channels. And this is one of those features where they're adding channel cards, which is a really simple thing. But as you hover over an individual channel, it'll give a description, last activity, membership information. So just making it more accessible for you to understand, particularly if you're coming to a new team, like a 1 or 2 word channel name, who knows what's that for, what's the context, those kind of things. Along with that, they're doing some things around the general channels are changing so they can be renamed, and actually soon you'll have to name them the way you want to name them. And they're doing some layout changes which are still coming soon, but how Teams and chat and channels will be presented. And it's all with the aim of trying to make channels more usable, more accessible for the users.
Good stuff. Well, another interesting one is it's around Town Hall reactions, hasn't it? Microsoft introduced some new features in Town Hall around reactions and the ability to export Q&A questions using Graph APIs. Tell us more on this one.
Yeah, so as a reminder, Town Halls is the big event scenario. So you're having thousands of people turn up. So like big org internal quarterly meeting, like say a giant FinServe, their regional leaders meetings, those kind of things. So internal, like thousands of users, more of a broadcast scenario. And Microsoft are really pumping the features through. Previously, they were pushing an aggressive timeline to switch over to Town Hall from live events. That deadline got moved, but Town Hall is getting additional API coverage, export of Q&As, and all these features are kind of rattling through to things like webinar scenarios as well. So continuing to see some quite big investment there to make Teams a really good platform for large events.
Yeah, I'm going to comment on this and then also on just like the channel changes. Like I think Microsoft, it's almost like they're making, they're certainly making a lot of changes. And, I'm hearing from a lot of enterprise customers that despite, this great show and the great work you do at Empowering Cloud, it's really hard for people to keep up, right? So, understanding the difference between webinars and town halls and live events, you got to constantly go to the documentation and look at, the checklist to figure out what feature you should find. And I think, both in the new channel experience and in this town hall webinar world, they're moving in the right direction. It's just how many kicks at the can do you get before people, get overly confused? And I certainly am hearing that, moving things around in the channels, it's causing more confusion often. And I think even if it's a great feature, so I think about that around these events and the channels, and I don't have the answer, but I certainly know that it's causing some IT pros and training and change management organizations a lot of extra work.
Yeah, I think that's really, really valid. It like Teams is constantly changing. It doesn't slow down, and it feels like increasingly Microsoft are getting a bit experimental with it. Like they put a feature out, give it 6 months, and like actually it hasn't landed at any kind of scale. We'll move it around, and the people that do use it obviously tend to be vocal because they're used to it. So I think in the case of these channel scenarios, if you look at the usage stats, like you're only impacting a small percentage of those 320 million, but they're all used to it. And some organizations, as you say, Kevin, have put loads of effort into training and adoption and habit forming. And then, it used to be like this, and now it's like that. So it is a completely valid challenge, kind of a tightrope Microsoft need to walk between adding features and gaining users and not annoying people who like it the way it is.
Yeah, and let me just add one thing to that is because, the rolling out of, a cloud-based platform, it rolls out. So it's often unclear. Like I'll tell people we'll go to this setting screen and they don't have that setting screen. Now, some of it is because maybe I'm on an earlier ring, but some of it is just because even on the public release, the generally available, it takes a period of time to roll out. And so I would say, then I go to the documentation, but this is a bit of a pet peeve. Most of Microsoft's documentation has dates on it, but not all of it. So sometimes you go and you read a support article and you're like, I don't know if this is current or old. So I would say if you're at Microsoft and watching this and doing any documentation, make sure there's a date on it, because that's one of the ways you can deal with fast change is you go to the documentation and you say, hey, is this old or new, right? But anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine too.
Right. Well, next up, voice isolation is now available on macOS. I mean, this offering advanced kind of AI noise suppression. I'm assuming here, Tom. How significant is this for Mac users?
Yeah, I mean, this has been on Windows for a while now. So this is the ability. So rather than just reducing kind of background noise, this is actually training on your voice and zeroing in on your voice. So even if you're in close quarters with other people speaking, think like close by desks or Starbucks or something, noise suppression would get rid of the aircon or the background noise, but it wouldn't get rid of other voices. This will. So nice to see this. As with a lot of things, they come to the Windows client first, and then the Mac client trails a little. So nice to see this coming to Mac.
Has anyone used it? Had feedback on it?
I've used it on Windows. I've not used it on Mac yet. I do run both, so I'll give it a go. The feedback on Windows has been pretty strong, actually, particularly when I'm out and about. It seems to be a really good feature.
We'll see how that one plays out for the Mac users there. But in the meantime, we got quite a few updates to get through on Rooms and devices, Tom. I mean, the first one is Microsoft Teams Rooms on Android, and it's around supporting custom backgrounds. I mean, what's all this about? How's it going to affect the meeting experience going forward?
Yeah, we talked about this a few months ago. It was on the roadmap, and now it's dropping. So we've had this on Teams Rooms on Windows for a while as well. Organizations that buy room systems really, really like to brand them. They like to use the screens when they're not in use for their company logos, corporate messaging, training content, that kind of thing. So now they will be able to have custom backgrounds. Graham, I'm guessing you've already hands-on with this and had a play.
Yes, indeed. It's a number one actually, feature request has been that. As you say, it's been on the Windows platform for a long, long time, since basically inception, since we've got Skype room systems and Microsoft Teams rooms. So people love to brand their rooms just for whether modern day now, a QR code to show them, how to get help or support, or user and training documents. As Kevin was saying earlier, things are moving around all the time. The UI, where's the mute button, or how do you do X, how do you share content? So that's why people like to have, a custom wallpaper to show people how to do that. So it's now rolling out for Android devices, and actually on the public roadmap is also the team scheduling panel outside the room as well, so you can have a consistent experience across your room. I've been speaking to some customers about this, and they're afraid of becoming graphic designers now instead of managing their UC estate, because each company or entity will say, oh, I want the logo here, I want my logo here. So some people like the default backgrounds because, like the old Model T Ford, any color on black. So it's good for some, bad for others. And again, Microsoft makes some changes in the back end, so you could just do a custom wallpaper and not have to do any other settings. So there are some new features coming up to make it easier to deploy as well. So if you have a global brand, a global identity, or let's call it 3, North America, Europe, and APAC, you'll be able to have like 3 simple brands you'll be able to deploy out.
Good. And another interesting development was this one around Zoom meetings on Teams rooms on Android. That's is quite interesting. What does this mean for organizations managing multiple, meetings platforms, UC platforms?
This is just the direct guest join continuing to get additional features. So you could currently join a Zoom meeting from a Teams Rooms on Android by forwarding the meeting and then being able to click the link. But with this rollout update, you'll be able to add a meeting ID and passcode. So if someone comes into an MTR room on Android, they've got a Zoom invite, they know the ID and passcode, they can type it and join rather than having to forward the link, which is typical users don't fully understand. I'm in a room, what's the room meeting, how do I forward it, get it across? So I think it's a nice additional feature.
Great. Teams rooms on Windows, Tom, we've got an update here. Do you want to talk us through this one? I love this one. I think this is really interesting.
Yeah, this is nice. So we've already seen this coming through on the Teams client, and now it's coming through on the rooms as well. So this is the ability for rooms to remotely kind of resize the tiles in the meeting experience. So if there's only one person in a room, that room on the screen will get a certain size tile. But if there's 2 or more people, it will get a bigger tile, actually 4 times the size. So basically, dynamically, the room video will get bigger on both the Teams client as a remote joiner and on the other rooms when the remote room has more people in it. It's a really nice experience when you're hands-on with it. Like, it makes sense, obviously, that a room with more people in should get more real estate because you're representing all those people.
I suppose it's all about meeting equity, isn't it? And that dynamic sizing, I think, is great. I mean, we're seeing just on the Teams client on Windows. I mean, that's been rather rigid for a long time now. We're getting some more flexibility there, aren't we, going forward?
Yeah, there's new layouts coming, and it's much more, the default layouts are much more dynamic now. So there are things like you can now prioritize. I'd rather have all the video participants be on the first page, or everybody gets an equal square even if they're not on video. And these dynamic room layouts are, particularly as a lot of meetings are not, if you look at the stats, there are not hundreds of joiners. The average meeting is like 3-4 people, so actually it might be a room and a couple of remote people, so having this dynamic layout to represent the room better is really nice.
Okay, swiftly moving on. Another update we've got is around meeting recordings directly from Teams rooms on Windows. It's now possible. How does this simplify the recording process?
Yeah, so a couple of months ago we got an update where recordings of meetings are going in the OneDrive of the person who organized the meeting. So previously they would land in the OneDrive of whoever hit record first, which was a bit of a problem because whoever happened to hit record ended up owning that asset and the permissions to it. So this was the thing that had been hanging around for a while, but obviously the Copilot drive and the AI drive has further enhanced the need to tidy that up. And kind of this is a benefit to that, because now the recording is always going to land in the meeting organizer. The Teams rooms, when you go into them, you can actually start the recording from the room. So previously you would have to have a participant who's not the room person hit record. Now there'll be a UI on the meeting room, and that recording will land in the organizer's OneDrive. The only exception here is if you scheduled a meeting from a resource account, which is a weird edge case, but that resource account can't hold the recording, so therefore the room can't hit record. But other than that exception, which is kind of a rarity, for people in the room, they can invoke the recording, which previously they couldn't.
Yeah, just on that one, it's very much similar to how you do the whiteboarding. So again, it's in the organizer's storage. So that's where, when you do your annotations during a meeting, the rooms don't have an identity, so it's following the same path as that. So hopefully you'll be able to find it afterwards.
Yeah, you just go to the organizer now. That's the nice thing. You've got a fighting chance.
Good stuff. Well, another interesting update coming through. PowerPoint Live is now available within Cloud Video Interop with presentations displayed as video content. This is really quite cool, but I've never seen it. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, this is a good one actually. So, as a reminder, Cloud Video Interop is the scenario where you use a third party, so Cisco or Paxip typically, and they can connect a Teams meeting to standards-based endpoints. So, for organizations that have lots of SIP endpoints, or continue to want to run SIP endpoints, even modern SIP endpoints, or even remote joiners, one of the gaps in that story was if people use PowerPoint Live, which is the preferable way to present PowerPoint, it's more efficient than desktop sharing. It does some clever, animations and stuff. Links are clickable. That wouldn't work. The cloud video interrupt providers wouldn't be able to receive that and encode it. But now they will be able to. So they will present it on the standards-based rooms. Obviously, it'll just be a video feed. It won't be interactive. But it means that experience will continue to work, and you won't have this oddity where you have to kind of say to the presenter, "Oh, can you desktop share rather than PowerPoint Live?"
Good stuff. Let's move on to this one around BYOD, Tom. The new in-room participant roster grouping features for Teams BYOD meeting rooms introduces this kind of ID and meeting intelligence capability. Tell us.
Yeah, bring your own device continues to get investment from Microsoft. So, previously it wasn't getting loads of love, but now Microsoft kind of recognized that BYOD, and for those unfamiliar, this is where you have a USB based, typically a bar or a mic and speakers in the meeting room. You plug in your laptop, i.e., you're bringing your own device, and you run the meeting from the laptop. And now there's special layouts in that scenario so that only the meeting room screen will get the meeting. And now as well, if there's multiple people in the room with the laptop, the BYOD, it will do the same thing it does on the Teams rooms, where it will say in-room participants and show the participants. Now, this will rely on the same scenarios as Teams rooms, that the users will have to be enrolled and it'll have to identify them and they have to be invited to the meeting to understand who they are. So there's a few caveats here as to how this works, but generally this is Microsoft pushing the intelligent meeting recap / copilot scenarios into the BYOD scenarios. So because BYOD can do this, you'll get the better transcript recognizing who the people are. You'll get the people recognition, and eventually you'll get the kind of the lower third names of the people, even in BYOD scenarios, which is interesting.
Fantastic. And last but not least, we've got an update surrounding Yealink on the Microsoft device ecosystem platform. Do we call it MDEP for short?
Yeah, MDEP, yeah, not Mandroid, that's not approved. So this is Microsoft's version of Android. There's been a lot of talk of this over the summer. Interesting podcast on Teams Insider if you want to get into the weeds on it as well. This is the first time we've heard about IP phones running on MDEP. So Yealink will be coming out with a series called the MPE2 series, and these will be the first IP phones running the Microsoft Android. Functionally, doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but just interesting that Microsoft have more and more OEMs who are lining up to support their version of Android on Teams devices.
Super. Right, moving swiftly on then. It's that time of year where events do start to kick in for everyone. Looking forward to a busy period ahead of us, Tom. Do you want to take us through the lineup of the events the right in front of us coming up?
Yeah. So we're starting to get into event season, which is really great. So first off, online we've got Ron Pesner, who's a Microsoft CVP and looks after Microsoft Loop. He's doing Teams Fireside Chat on the 12th of September, and we're getting all into Loop, and that's really interesting for Teams people because increasingly Loop is being kind of put front and center of some of the Teams collaboration experience. So looking forward to that one. Metaverse One on the 18th of September. That's an online community event. Lots of focus on kind of the mesh type scenarios as you might expect, but also lots of Copilot content there. Looks really good. For in person, 19th of September. Logi are hosting the Microsoft UC User Group London. So Randy Chapman, friend of the show, will be speaking with, we've got some customers coming as well to do live speaking, and Graham and I will be doing the usual updates. So looking forward to that. Then we've got Teams Dagon coming up. Amanda, you can probably do a better job of me than summarizing what's being presented there, but that's a really good event.
Yeah, it's. I think I talked about this last year. It rings a bell. So one of the biggest conferences in Sweden about Microsoft Teams, of course, purely in Swedish. So maybe you're not our biggest guests, but there's a great lineup of speakers, many great sponsors. It will be very fun. We have a new beautiful venue that's big, bold, and I'm very excited. So finally that time of the year to be here. Yeah, planning a whole year and then it's over in like I blink.
Nice. And then for in person in London, we've got UC Expo London, which starts 2nd of October, 2nd and 3rd. Lots of good things there. I'll be speaking on a few different panels and doing the usual update I do with Martin Boehm around kind of Teams and roadmap. And then we've got other side of the pond, Enterprise Connect AI, which is September 30th to October 2nd. Kevin, I think you're speaking at that, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I'm speaking at that around personal assistance in UC, which obviously in the Microsoft world is Copilot. And I spoke about that in March. And, the hope is now as people are using Copilot and AI Companion, AI Assistant, we're going to try to share some more quantifiable data. There was lots of anecdotes and, kind of qualitative opinions back in March. We don't have as much data as we'd like, but there are some more studies and more organizations have kind of kicked the tires and have a better idea of what use cases work. And we're going to try to share, what organizations have learned in these early days of AI assistance.
No, I love that. I think that's where we are now with the AI stuff. It's kind of enough marketing. Like it's been in market for a while. Obviously, it's radically changing still. There's things coming all the time, but it definitely feels like it should be a time to hear from customers to kind of get the real world. Where are you seeing value?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, lots of events coming up, lots of news coming out of Microsoft. Stay tuned, lots to come. But that's about it for today. I'd like to, if you'd like to join us on, LinkedIn and join the conversation, feel free to connect to myself, to Tom, and our guest speakers. We're also on X, and our links are always down below in the description. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next month with more essential Microsoft Teams updates. Thanks for watching.